Keith, my trampoline's better than yours.
Well, sorry, buddy. I know for a fact that mine's safer, so I think that makes mine better.
Safer? They're the same.
Well, not really. Yours only looks as safe as mine. Let me tell you why. I found that in the US anyway, there's 100,000 children a year injured on trampolines. They're being injured by falling on the frame and springs or falling off the trampoline altogether. So with the Springfree trampoline, what we've tried to do is to try and remove the hazards altogether. And I think we've been successful in doing that. This is the first time really that someone has redesigned it from the ground up and looked at a way of getting rid of some of the main impact points in a conventional trampoline. If you fell from 1.5 meters head first onto this point, there's a small chance, about 1% chance of you dying. Another way of looking at it is for every 15 Springfree trampolines that are put out in the market, you keep one child out of hospital. Trampoline manufacturers are in business to make money, and while there are standards that ensure safety, we find that the manufacturers tend to do the minimum to comply rather than designing out problems or dangerous areas. One of the problems is that sometimes the padding doesn't comply with the standard. So this trampoline has got steel tubes around the edge. That's part of the frame system. In order to protect the jumper from the steel tubes, we've got this padding. It's a sort of a band-aid that's been put on so that people don't hurt themselves. Unfortunately, the padding often doesn't cover the frame. It can slide around, and this exposes the holes between the springs and the mat, and you can get your legs stuck down here. By contrast, the edge of the Springfree trampoline is flexible. It's a long way from the frame. Here's the frame away down here. The point with this is that you can't hurt yourself if you fall on the edge. Also, there's no springs here, so there's no holes for you to fall down. One thing about the traditional trampolines is that some of them are made with very light materials. What is likely to happen is that when people are jumping on it, those legs can fold up and the trampoline can collapse. If we go to the Springfree trampoline, its frame is a much more solid structure. It has to be to cope with the stresses from these rods here. One of the main differences is in the net itself. So the net of the Springfree trampoline has got this unique shape. The Springfree net is a tension net. If you run into it, it will stop you from falling off the edge. Now let's look at the traditional trampoline. The net is relatively saggy. So what happens is you slide down the net, and if you're unlucky, the pad is not in place and you reach that critical point on the frame where it's pretty dangerous. One of the problems about the ultraviolet resistance in this net is you won't know whether it's there or not. We've had many instances of children falling right through the net because it's just deteriorated. The poles here are rigid steel poles. You have to be careful. If you hit those poles, you can hurt yourself. Now let's look at the Springfree trampoline. If I'm really unlucky and happen to hit one of the net poles, it'll move. It will bend out of the way. That's one of the big advantages of the Springfree. Those high-risk areas have been taken away. While these two trampolines might look similar, fundamentally, they're very different. And there you have it. Any questions?
So, my trampoline's not better?
Afraid not.
And it's not safe?
Well, not really.